All right, folks, let's go and take a look here at Function X. And just before we do, we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first, get a quick understanding on the market. And I do want to thank you and welcome you to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Now, bear in mind, if you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. Always recommend you do your own research and always make sure you learn as much as you can from as many people as possible, hopefully including myself. I think you'll learn something here today. But if you do, like and subscribe, consider joining my Patreon account. I have a trading community, send out signals for every single trade that I take. Awesome group of folks there. You're going to love it. Now, checking out Function X, just before we do, we look at Bitcoin. Let's take a quick peek there. And actually, I just want to preface here in the fact that we had an ascending wedge pattern here set up from yesterday. It broke out today just as expected. Unfortunately, though, we haven't seen any retracement. And I say unfortunate because I think that we're due to have that. I feel like we're going to see some kind of downward action in the near future. It might happen tomorrow. Tuesdays are notoriously red days, just based on the fact that, the Bulls and the Bears, essentially, they're fighting it out. But the Bulls usually concede and allow the Bears to take their profit. That could happen, so just bear in mind that might happen. No pun intended on that one. And we'll see what happens. Now, just to clarify, this is likely going to close at a support level, 56,000. We got 30 minutes left in this trading candle. Furthermore, 53,800 and 52,600 are the next secondary support channels. So if we do lose 56, we will see 53.8 as the next most recent support channel, essentially, to help drive the price and keep the price above. Moving averages, also just to note, they are both well behind, but those are on their way on up, so to speak, to potentially work as support levels. Not much else to really note here, except for the fact that, again, I feel Bitcoin is a little bit on the overextended side, where you can see it testing 70 still, and hasn't broken since. That's a sign that we may not see it continue much further for at least a couple of days. Moving on to Function X. Now, I covered this one here recently, but I got, again, this is a big request from my community members. Thank you again for requesting I cover this. If you see the high here, 225, that was as high as it went recently. We also have $1.25, so you got this $1 range, so to speak, from top to bottom. And right now, the price did break and close. It'll likely close above $1.25, so that's a good thing now. We can likely consider that a support level, just based on the simple fact that it's coming back up, and we should expect that to close above the one-day chart. Because again, we have about 25-30 minutes left of trading in this candlestick, so we should assume that that should close soon. By the time you catch this video, it'll probably have been closed. That being said, that's a good sign. We like to see that. Price is well above both moving averages. Not much really to note there. We'll look at shorter time frames to identify other support and resistance channels, but the bottom line here is that we're looking pretty good. Not much else to note except for the fact that RSI is essentially bouncing off of 50. So this is a good sign here. Oftentimes you'll see 50 as a support channel for the RSI and the price, right? So bear in mind this here, even though it didn't actually hit 50, it's not touching 50 or coming below, right? Because that is a very good sign that pretty much holds as a support level in most cases. So we like to see that. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the 4 hour as well. Another thing that it did is it bounced off the 50-day simple moving average. That's more likely the case because the 50-day simple moving average on the 4 hour chart is a very effective time, basically a very effective moving average on that time frame. And a lot of industry leaders will use that as a secondary support and resistance level for for the price outside of the one-day chart. Okay. Now, furthermore, this support level here looks like it is holding. It did the price did push up here to $1.80 and got rejected. I wonder why that is. Let's go ahead and mark this here as well. We got a resistance level right at approximately 170. So we'll just go ahead and mark 170. That's the next most recent resistance level. Another thing I want to kind of look at here would be Fibonacci, see if there's anything else we can pull from this. And see. Yeah, that is working close as a support level there. We got a resistance here as well. We could mark that, but I think this channel is so large that we're not going to need to worry about it. All right, let's disregard that for now. That's not really telling us too much because we need to be able to work within this channel and see what's going on. And what I mean by that is that when the price, which I expect the price to continue to possibly retrace, if it does, it'll bounce off of 125 and spring back up to the upside. But what we want to look at is shorter time frames too to identify if we're making higher highs and higher lows. It does look like we are. We got a higher low there, higher high. Obviously that's a higher high, but this being a low. So if we can continue, if this can kind of bounce, even if it comes down here, it's still making higher highs and higher lows. So I like this pattern. I like the way it's set up. I think we're going to see it continue to the upside. It may come all the way down to 125 and bounce, but it may just kind of stay where it's at and continue upwards as well. Both are going to be perfectly fine and good signs because they're higher highs and higher lows, right? at least higher lows, because that's the most important thing here, is to get a second higher low. If this guy right here, this second candle here, for some reason comes down here and closes down there, that is not a good sign. We don't want to see that. We want to see this close anywhere above 125 support. So I like this because we're moving into support, and it's going to work as a pretty good place to hold the price up. Okay, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the 1 hour charts and just quickly identify the cloud, see where we're at. We're still above, which is a very good sign. And by the time the price gets down here to support, it could very well be bouncing back up. But what's cool about the Ishimoku cloud is it kind of doubles as a breakout signal, but it also tells us that we have potential support as well. In other words, if the price continues sideways and bounces and stays above the cloud, it's a very, very good sign for bullish momentum to the upside. Also keep in mind too, I already identified this, but you can see it a little bit better now. We've got that higher low, right? So this can kind of stay continuing going sideways and then progress to the upside to break that resistance, we'll be in perfect shape. Okay. But I don't see any reason why FX will not test its all-time high. I don't think it's going to be today. We got to be realistic, but I think that it is very likely for this to kind of come up and somehow hit 225. I think before year end, it's safe to say it'll break that. It might even be soon, depending on how Bitcoin continues to perform. Because as we can see here, we had a really strong day here, right? That was on the 6th of October. We can see Bitcoin was ramping up on the 6th of October, right? However, this got too high too fast in such a short amount of time, it had to come retracing back down. So keep that in mind. This isn't a bad thing with this retracement. This is very standard because the bulls pushed the price up and then the bears took their profit, right? The bulls essentially became the bears and took their own profit. That's essentially what happens. And you and I are left out in the rain, so to speak, with a position up here because you FOMO'd in, right? It happens, it's normal. Try not to worry about it, at least in this circumstance, because I think it's very realistic for the price to kind of continue back up here to test 171 and then move past that. But we just want to work with one thing at a time. So right now, we got to focus on higher highs and higher lows. I do think this has definite potential to reach its all-time high. We just got to remember that, when you have an increase like this, it's going to be followed by a decrease. And keep this in mind too. Look at the history, right? Look at the history. It has a tendency of ramping up super strong in 2 days or 1 to 2 days, and then coming back down almost 80% of its original starting point. Same thing happened here. Ramped way up, came back down, probably about 70% of its original starting point. Okay, so patterns have a tendency of repeating themselves. The difference here, and this is the one thing to understand, is the fact that that came up that high and came over. It took a while to recover, right? Well, this one didn't come up quite as high, so it's able to recover faster. So the best analogy I could think of here, I always like to use this, you might have heard this before, is imagine falling down a flight of stairs. You're probably going to break some bones, you're going to have a jacked up neck, you're going to be on crutches, something along those lines, wheelchair, it's going to be bad, right? That's what happened here. This was a fall down a flight of stairs. This right here was a fall down maybe a couple of stairs, right? You bruise your knee real bad, you're very sore for quite a while, but you're able to get back in the race, okay? That's essentially how coins work, or just trading in general. The higher it comes up, the faster it comes down. You can expect it to take longer to recover before it can come back up again, okay? So just note that the fact that it's recovering right now after only 5 days of trading is a very good sign, but also note too that Bitcoin performed very well today, and so did FX. There's a correlation. So if tomorrow we see a retracement down to 56,000, down to 53,800 for Bitcoin, we can expect FX also to follow suit and likely test the support level of 125. Wouldn't be a bad call, wouldn't be a bad thing, because the fact that we can average our price down, possibly get a better entry point at support, and watch the price come back up again. Okay, these are all good things. So try not to focus on the negative if there is such a thing, right? Well, as a good trader, you always want to focus on the positive. Every mistake is learning, a place to learn, right? Everything you do is just a way to get better. So pick yourself up, scrape, scratch the dust off your knees, and get back in the ring. Now, if you found benefit from this, please like and subscribe. Also note, I have a Patreon trading community. Check that out in your own time. I think you'd find benefit. I'd love to get to know you a bit better. I have a one-on-one conversation with the majority of all my members. I love it. It's a great thing. Keeps me going at the end of the day. So thanks again to my patrons for recommending not only that I cover this, but for your support over the last few months. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Take care. Thank you.